Okay, and the road we're going up next is Benjamin Franklin Parkway. It started in 1917. Only road that, well, the first road to really cut diagonally across William Penn's original grid plan, and it was designed, the reason why it's called the Parkway, it was the way to the park. It connects the center of the city with our park, and unlike Central Park, which is in the center of Manhattan Island, with the city surrounding it. Our park was on the whole other side there. See where Philadelphia Museum of Art is now? Our park begins on the other side of that. Between here and there they have to get rid of between 1,300 and 2,000 buildings. They have to mow down in order to make the way to the park. And this was inspired by the Champs-Elysees. And very interesting report having to do with the Olympics and all, that the Champs-Elysees having the exact same problems we are with the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, and that is the relationship between pedestrians and the automobile. That the automobile seems to have taken over the parkway. Now this building here, this is the Cathedral Basilica St. Peter and Paul. Note that there are no windows. That turret was added later with that window there. But there are no windows on the ground floor. This was created in 1844, completed 1864. 1844, there were anti-Catholic riots throughout Philadelphia. And they were throwing Molotov cocktails and stones and shit and stuff through the windows. There, and burning down several Catholic churches. And so 2 years later, when they designed the cathedral, they decided not to have any windows on the ground floor. It's extremely noticeable at the front of the cathedral. But also, we have the first American saint enshrined there. St. Catherine Drexel came from one of the wealthiest families in the country. Drexel family was very involved in finance, railroads, and they do the same in the front there. Usually you would have these great stained glass windows, nothing of the sort. Anyone getting off at the cathedral? No hands for the cathedral. Left-hand side here, this is Swan Fountain. The sculptures at Swan Fountain were sculpted by Alexander Sterling Calder. That's the son of Alexander Milne Calder. Did the sculptures up of all around City Hall, actually. But Alexander did the sculpture of William Penn. The three named American figures represent the three rivers of Philadelphia, the Delaware, Schuylkill, and the Wissahickon. The Free Library was designed 1928-29 by Horace Trumbauer, one of the great architects, as far as I'm concerned, for neoclassical and Beaux-Arts architecture. And Julian Abel, much younger than him, who was the first African-American architect in the United States. Next up, I don't know if it makes much sense getting off, but it's for the Barnes Foundation. They're going to be closing soon. Anyone, but it's also a nice little area. I don't know if people want to get off there. Anyone getting that? But the Barnes Foundation is created by Albert Barnes, never meant to be on this flat. He's a curmudgeon, got his money from pharmaceuticals. But he loved art in its purest sense. He did not want to have a museum. He got his collection together by 1922 and put it together as an educational institution. The Barnes Foundation is meant to educate people in art, especially people who couldn't afford art or didn't know anything about art. He wanted to instruct them in art, in the philosophical aspects of art, and also the technical aspects of how brushwork, color, space,
caminar es bueno, pero se cansa uno para caminar todo aquí.
The Board of Trustees
Por eso
managed to
venimos
break
en
his will
bus.
and move everything down here into a postmodernist building that he would have hated. The only part of his will that they maintain is that the paintings are still arranged in the way he wanted them arranged, so that you can compare one painting with another, one artist with another in terms of their use of space, color, and all that. And there's a great documentary on this whole thing called The Art of the Steel. So if you have a chance, I think you can find it on YouTube probably. And here's the Rodin Museum. Even if you don't know who Rodin is, you probably know that sculpture right out in front, the thinker. And we have here the largest collection of Rodin sculptures outside of Paris. And the architecture is by Paul Frey. The landscape architecture is done by Jacques Rivera. And both of them were responsible for the Parkway in the first place. And this is what they kind of wanted the Parkway to be like. A park, right? With trees and kind of subdued classical Beaux-Arts style buildings. Neoclassical is symmetry and the various classical orders, what they call the classical orders, which are the columns. And now we're heading into area of Philadelphia that was all farmland until about 1870s. This is off the grid, so to speak. It's off William Penn's grid. The building coming up on your left-hand side, really fascinating. It's an apartment building that's still very popular, even though it's from the 1953. It was designed by our first woman architect here in Philadelphia, Elizabeth Fleischer. Notice the angles it has to it all around. It's been copied on some of the other later ones. And she designed this in such a way that each apartment would get the maximum amount of light throughout the day as the sun travels along the parkway. And I think that makes it a popular building, even though it's kind of outdated in a way. And you can see later on, you'll see that I'll point out it has been copied. It was copied again in the 60s and 70s. But now this area too was formerly in the 1870s. Then it became more and more industrialized because of all the creeks and rivers that, not rivers, but creeks and streams that used to run through here that ran strong enough that they could turn up mills. And so the textile industry was the first really important industry in Philadelphia. Then, because of those same creeks and streams, the brewery industry became really big here. And also we had a lot of German immigrants who were encouraged to come and settle in Pennsylvania as a whole by William Penn. That's why we end up with Pennsylvania Dutch, which has nothing to do with the Dutch. I'm part Dutch. My family's from Holland. The Dutch we're talking about here, Pennsylvania Dutch, is from Germany. And so they brought with them the recipes for German beer, mostly lager. And we were very popular. Philadelphia beer was fantastic and very well known. But Prohibition, of course, put an end to that. But the mansion coming up on your left-hand side here, it's one of the few remaining mansions of a brewery family. But it's also one of the few examples of brownstone in Philadelphia. Brownstone very popular in Brooklyn, Manhattan. Not so well liked here in Philadelphia. Not so popular, I guess. But the architect of that building, by the way, is James Winter, who also did the architecture of the Masonic Temple right across the street from City Hall. And now we do have the Eastern State Penitentiary coming up. I don't think you have much time to do a tour here either. Anybody get involved? Now it's called penitentiary. Penitentiary comes from the word penance. Look at that architecture there on the right. Just want to point that out because that very cheery architecture is that inspires a lot of people, inspired us all to in Philadelphia. We turned that into a haunted house during our filming and have haunted house tours.
sol, mire. El sol, demasiado sol.
Oh, okay. Well, we used to, so I have to use the word used to. What's that? No, no one's coming down.
Niños, por favor.
Sorry about that. But anyway, penitentiary comes from the word penance. So this was the very first prisoner here was from 1829. And the thing is that and the last one was 1971.
Ya para,
And the thing is that they were
pues.
not supposed to be punished, they were supposed to be reformed. But the way they chose to reform them was by putting them in isolation. They had isolated cells with no walls, they had walls, of course, no windows on the walls, and just a skylight called the Light of God. And Charles Dickens came here to visit back because he was really into prison reform, and he was appalled. 1840s he came here and was appalled by the state of... He thought this was a good idea until they actually saw it in action.
Deja, la niña está mirando afuera.
No estoy jugando, sino yo sí te pego aquí.
But again, penitentiary and prison were meant to have
no vienes a
two
jugar.
different philosophies behind them.
Tú no entiendes nunca. Así que da uno es,
And the
bueno.
area we're in now is called Fairmount. Fairmount is named after the highest point in Philadelphia.
Si
It's
tocas
where
mi mano, te voy a dar uno. Ay, Dios mío.
As we move along here, coming up to on your right-hand side, you'll see a building, an Art Deco building. Art Deco building was the headquarters for the Fidelity Insurance Company. That's now owned by the Philadelphia Museum of Art. All the bas-relief, the stone cuttings there, all represent different aspects of the insurance company. If you look straight up this doorway up to the top, those large stone cuttings, you can see Fidelitas, Frugalitas. You can see how they use the insurance themes in them. The trees that you see to your right, that's the beginning of the largest urban park in the United States. Over 3 square miles of woodland, creeks, hiking trails, open fields, etc. And that's why we built the parkway. The parkway was built the way to the park so people can get over there much more easily. Statue on your right there is the Joan of Arc. Bronze statue with gold leafing. Gold leafing, and that's actually old gold leafing by now. It's like 20. I saw when they first put it up back in the 80s, I think it was. But it was placed there 1889 in commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution.
Mira ahí.
And to your right here is
Si miras otra vez, te voy a dar uno.
industrial, stainless steel industrial piping. Paint likes to use industrial materials to portray nature, to get that tension. And that's called symbiosis, by the way. And this one is Iroquois by Mark de Severo, whose family, he grew up in China back in the 1830s.
Vente, yo me quiero estar ahí
And
porque
a
necesito
lot of
mover.
his
Ven aquí.
construction work reminds people of Chinese ideograms, also Russian constructivism.
Vamos para allá, vamos para allá. Vamos para allá, concéntrate, que siempre andas jugando otra cosa. Vamos para allá.
Now we are heading back towards the museum and the Rocky statue, which I've been noting all summer long is going neck and neck in popularity with the Liberty Bell. You should see the lines, so the lines are down. In any case, the Rocky statue was given to us by by Sylvester Stallone back in 1982 when he completed Rocky III. And he left the statue at the top of the steps. I was here when this happened. It became a very controversial thing. Rocky statue was left up at the top of the steps, and the museum people got really upset. Museum people kept saying, this is not a work of art, this is a movie prop. Get it out of here. So they moved it down to South Philadelphia, where all the sports stadiums are. But then in 2006, a compromise was reached. It was the 30th anniversary of the release of Rocky 1. So they decided that, okay, you can have the Rocky statue up here, but have it to the right of the steps. They gave it a spot there under the canopy of trees. And so now that's where it is. And there's always a line. Always a line. I do night tours on occasion. There's still a line. Okay, so this is a stop. Show of hands, people getting off. Oh yeah, I should tell you that we still have 4 buses running behind this one. And each bus is running 15 minutes apart. So you do have time to get off and get back on. Okay, all right, so here you go. We'll wait until we do a full stop. Okay, and we both Manuel and I do accept tips. We have a tip jar down below on your right-hand side, right by the brochures, and we really appreciate that.